So in the integration of the soul, which is what 2015 initiates and goes for the next 5 years, what this process is all about is it's all about not only awakening the light of your eternal recognition, meaning recognizing that within you that's already awake, but it's about moving back into the world, moving back into body, moving back into personality, moving back out of all of the things that when you had a spontaneous awakening, it seemed to move you out of. Now what happens is when you have an awakening, there is an energetic shift that happens. Now you can have all sorts of different experiences, flashes of insight, but energetically what happens is you go from being lost in this character you think you are as one in comparison to other, and all of a sudden you just have this awareness. You're almost just aware of yourself as awareness. And it's almost as if you're in the body, but you're almost behind the body as this witness. You know what I mean? And then what happens is you oscillate back and forth between contraction and expansion. And you somehow develop this belief that when you're expanded, that means you're one with God. And when you're contracted, I've fallen out of good grace with the universe and I got to find my way back. And it's very innocent, but what we try to do is we try to stay in the witness. But what you don't maybe know is that what the witness is going to do is move back into the body and merge as one. So that witness and body, self and source, one and all, become one and the same, indivisible. So what we're looking at in this journey is we're not chasing enlightenment, we're not chasing self-realization, because all these things are going to happen when your soul is integrated and fully embodied. So we're not trying to leave the body to go to higher dimensions. We're not trying to figure out a way to shortcut any of this. We're not running towards the light of unity consciousness. We are becoming aware of who we already are, but more importantly, engaging in a process, which for a lot of people will be a 5-year energetic process of returning. It's called the return. Returning to body, returning to relationships, returning to world. And a lot of spiritual egos get really freaked out about that because they misunderstand it and they think that they're going back into ego. You don't go back into ego, you go back to life. And the real spiritual ego trip is trying to stay divided. Where you find yourself going about the day, something arises, there's an emotion, you pull yourself away from the experience so you can be aware of it and return to the present moment. And you go through this spiritual gymnastics routine of going back and forth between contraction and expansion, as if the ocean ever tries to get away from waves. And so what we're learning to do is actually engage in becoming the most integrated and fully embodied expression of that which is already awake. It's the only way to guarantee that you'll be the most sane and least susceptible to fall for some of the most subtle ego trips in existence. Because one of the biggest ego trips is to think confidence is a byproduct of ego. A lot of spiritual people learned that when they thought, no, being spiritual, you got to be silently insecure and you can't feel good about yourself. You have to sit silently in self-hatred. You have to ignore yourself until you disappear. Hi, God, thanks for the body, thanks for this gift. I'm going to spend my time in a sacred posture ignoring it. Thank you. Thanks for the gift of form. I'm just going to ignore it. Someone taught me to do that. And I believe them. I believe them. Why? Why would you believe that? Sounded good. That's all it is at the end of the day. It just sounds good. But we are moving into the integration of the soul. And when your soul is integrated, that's when you find the bliss you're looking for. That's when self-realization happens in every breath. That's when you understand enlightenment. but not the way we think of enlightenment. And I'll tell you why. When you're an ego, you're in an experience where you are defining yourself by your momentary circumstances. When you're an ego, one of the best parts of ego is that you're actually as close to the experience as a fully integrated soul is. You're front row to the experience. In fact, you're closer than front row. You're in an experience called I am. Right? You got tickets to a concert, and they keep pointing you down towards the stage. Where am I sitting? Am I sitting in front row? Oh, I'm sitting I am. What's I am? I am is so close to the experience, you are the experience. But when you're an ego, you're lost in the experience of I am. When you're fully integrated, you are the experience of I am. And from the outside looking in, you may not know the difference. You may not know the difference between a totally liberated being who's totally so free they can just be in any experience and play it out. From the outside looking in, you may not tell. But if you really learn how to be adept to the energy, it's so subtle, but so obvious at the same time. Because if you imagine a circle that gets completed, right, here's the starting point, and we go all the way around in our whole spiritual journey, and we end up, right? We end up at the same point. So the start is also the finish, and the finish is another start. Do you see? So you're going to go from I am to I am. But what happens in between is everything. When you're lost in ego, you're in the I am. So let's say anger for an example. And everything that happens to you, you use to define yourself as either good, bad, improving, or going backwards. That's the basic premise of it, right? Your experience is like an emotional stock market. You're having a good day, something happens to you, you have like one burst of emotion, and you go, that's it, I failed. That's it, game over. That's it. That's it. So let's say when we're in ego, the experience would be, I am angry, right? Because the words are always very specific. The wording is angry, as in the way the character is defined. I am angry. But a fully integrated soul is going to feel all that emotion. They're feeling it as objectively as the witness from afar, and they're still experiencing it as close can be. So real liberation and transcendence is I am experiencing this as untouched, as if I was separate, but I'm actually fully in the experience. So the ego experience is I am angry. The fully integrated experience is I am anger. Anger, I am. Now let's just look at the difference in that. And to know the difference, I want you just to feel the energetic difference if I have you say this out loud. So try this out loud. I am angry.
I am angry.
And do you see how when you say that, there's a sense of I, a separate character. This is about me. This is the quality of me. And when you are that, you either blame yourself for falling for something, you blame someone else for causing it, or you look to someone else to fix it. That's the basic premise. But try this out loud. I am anger, anger I am.
I am anger, anger I am.
All right. Now, if you can feel the difference in that, one is defining yourself by the experience. One is simply being aware of your experience. Do you see the difference? So when you're shifting from ego into integrated soul, you go from being angry to simply being anger. You're being the space where anger can arise to be expressed. It's coming up to be released out of you like a volcano, but it doesn't get on anyone. Because it only gets on people when you're expressing it unconsciously. So really, what if the whole spiritual journey isn't to stop your emotions, but to learn how to express them masterfully? A spiritual master isn't someone void of emotion. Spiritual master is someone who knows how to express emotions without getting it on anyone, including themselves. That's what a spiritual master is, someone who can handle their energetic business. Life wants to arise and erupt some anger, and I'll erupt it, and no heart will be harmed in the process. Because you could also be a primal energy and learn to let energy out, but you can just barf it on people. So what we're here to learn how to do is to express our emotions without just barfing on the world. That's what we're really learning how. That's the unfiltered, uncensored definition of mastery. Notice your emotions, feel them completely, and don't ruin anyone's outfit. Not even your own. Not even your own. Even if we take sadness, egoic version of sadness is, I am sad. I'm affected by something. It's not wrong to be affected, but the egocentric interpretation is that I'm the one who's been affected by things. A fully integrated soul, I am sadness, meaning I am a space where sadness arises. I don't have to pull away from it to try to shift my experience, create a state change, or reframe it, which a lot of spiritual gymnastics will teach you. Oh, something comes up. Just run over here. Yay! It's a spiritual form of avoidance. It's called reframing. Well, if you look at it differently, you don't have to look at it differently. You can just be that experience. When you're an ego, we all believe that there's something you can do performance-wise to change your experience. When you're a fully integrated soul, there's no need to change your experience because you're just fully integrated. You're not out of the body, you're fully grounded. You're not pulling back from your experiences, you're stepping into them. And no one gets harmed in the process. Because the only time anyone gets harmed is when your unconscious experiences blind you, and you either reach out to people to fix it, or you lash out at others in defense to what you can't control. So when you're an ego, it's I am sad. When you're integrated, it's I am sadness. Sadness I am. Do you see the difference in that? So that's what we're learning how to do, is we're learning how to become fully embodied, integrated souls. And there's no way out of the process, meaning the next 5 years are going to be very progressive, especially for the first wave of ascension. When I say first wave of ascension, I speak of a third of the planet that is waking up at an accelerated rate. And it's very important that the third of the planet that's waking up in the way that it is realizes the importance is not on trying to be awake or trying to be liberated, because those are all things you discover once you're integrated. What the focus needs to be is integration. Integration. And even if you have these flashes of, I'm that which is already awake, already liberated, some people get fooled into thinking, oh, that's it. I've realized it. No. In a flash, you realize you're already awake and already aware, but the whole journey is now integrate that. Integrate that into the fiber of your being and become what you've realized you are. And someone could say, well, if I'm already that, I don't need to become it. That's fooling yourself. That's what I call being blinded or being ignorant by your own intelligence. And there are beings on this planet, God bless them, that are aware of some things, and it's amazing to be aware of some things and to not know anything at the same time. And the way the universe reminds beings when they're in that crazy state of existential purgatory is because life will show you where you're at by relationships. If you want to know where you're at on the journey, just pay attention to how you interact with people. And what the universe will do for really, really out of sync spiritual egos is they put them into interactions with people that don't care about spirituality. Because for a lot of spiritual egos, that's where they can do the dance, in the spiritual setting. Let's see what happens when you're around people who have no idea what you're talking about. That's the real game. Because a fully integrated soul could be with people who don't give a crap about spirituality and still have harmony. Because we're not divided by concept. In fact, a liberated being is liberated from the attachment to concept. Someone could say to a liberated being, I don't like anything you stand for. That's wonderful to hear. Doesn't touch. I don't believe all that spiritual stuff. Hey, me neither. Me neither. Someone can even say, hey, anything that you say, I will dislike. Fantastic. I've been doing that for years. I'd love to have some company. A liberated being can't be touched. An integrated being cannot be touched. They cannot be threatened because they don't negotiate. Think of it this way. How do you negotiate with one who's always willing to listen? The only one you can negotiate with are those who don't listen. Think of anyone that you need to negotiate anything with, a partner, a coworker, a boss, a family member. Aren't you inherently always reaching out to negotiate with someone who's not willing to listen to you the way you want? That's what creates the negotiation. You go to them and say, hey, you're not giving me what I want. Let's negotiate. Wrong. If you're trying to negotiate, life's telling you you're already negotiating with the wrong person. Because how do you negotiate with someone who's not listening? And if you found someone who's listening, you wouldn't need to negotiate. That's why enlightened beings don't negotiate. There's nothing to negotiate. Someone goes, hey, I want to say something. Huh? I shall listen. When you're fully integrated, you lead with listening. And it doesn't always create that, like, you want to jump in the middle of someone talking with the, oh, I got something really good to say. That whole thing of, like, you hear someone talking, you're, like, almost shaking because you got something really amazing to say, like, oh, my God, I'm gonna, Right? It's almost like start to almost sweat a little bit, like, oh my God, I got 4 different Course in Miracle quotes in here. Which one am I going to pull out? Oh my God. Shaking. Oh. See, that's a sign of, like, that's someone who's in the dissolving ego, but they're not integrated. Integrated, you're just listening. Oh, let me hear this. That's nice. That's wonderful. All right. And then when they're done, someone goes, so what do you think about that? Nothing. I don't think anything about that. I'm just listening to what you say. Sounds good to me. Go for it. When you're fully integrated, clarity is very simple. Someone goes, hey, what do you think about what I just said? I think you just said that. We were both here. You remember, I remember. Look what you just said. All those words and syllables put together so eloquently. I'll carry it in my heart forever. When you're starting to dissolve the ego, but you're not integrated, that's when you have that, like, oh God, I have to listen. I got so many cool things to say. And that's why the universe puts you around people who have so much to say to you. And you're forced to listen, because listening helps you integrate. And eventually the litmus test is, can you listen without on the inside feeling like you're giving birth? You laugh because you know what I'm talking about. It's funny because it's true. It's so funny. So when you're integrating, you're returning to world, but you're not identifying with it. And the whole misunderstanding is trying to stay as the witness, instead of seeing that the witness is like the ocean that returns to the activity of waves. The waves are just the framework that lets the ocean be expressed. So you don't have to pull the picture out of the frame in order for the light to shine through. Let the light shine through and illuminate the image that's being framed. It's not wrong to have a personality. Personality is of the soul. Even if someone goes, there's just awareness. That's an insight of the most unintegrated nature. That is actually besides the point. There's just awareness. So what? It's not even a true statement, by the way. There's just awareness. Because that which is declaring that which is watching the emanation of that insight, isn't defined as awareness. So that's a beautiful insight that quickly becomes irrelevant. In fact, what's so amazing about the spiritual journey is that everything you've realized will become irrelevant at a certain point. First it's amazing, then it's irrelevant. And if you know that's how it works, you'll be sane. Because the worst thing to do is to walk around trying to rehash the energy of what's totally expired. And you know it's expired. You're trying to whip it back up into magic. Or it won't be relevant in a situation with people that just, you'll be sitting there and people will be like arguing and you're like, there's just awareness. And it doesn't do anything. Seemed to work a while ago. Doesn't work ever. Never works. It only works in spiritual circles for beings that have never seen there's just awareness. And even once you see there's just awareness, that's the moment it expires. I don't know if you've ever heard that. The moment you have the insight is the moment it's done. And if you don't know that, it will haunt you. Right? You'll go see a judge for a speeding ticket. Sir, do you have a reason? Are you going to fight this ticket? Yes, I should have to pay the ticket because there's only awareness. There's only awareness, Your Honor. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. Because this world is here for us to live out and play out all of what is here. Form is here. The fact that form is molded out of awareness is irrelevant. When you become integrated, what is true and false both disappear. And you're in a reality beyond all that. Because in the beginning, I was lost in falsehood, and then I realized something more true. And by comparison, something more true seems a lot more heart-centered, relaxing, and invigorating than this endless suffering of ego. But then there's this stage of integration where you are waking up out of truth and falsehood. And you actually realize that truth and falsehood are both just comparisons. And you live in a reality where there's no truth and no falsehood. Now that's either going to lead to transcendence and bliss or confusion and frustration. Because you're going to think you veered off in the wrong direction and you're lost somewhere. You're not lost at all. You're exactly where you need to be. You are merging back into oneness with that which does not define itself, nor does it mind how it's defined. It's one thing to try to stay undefined. It's another thing to see that defining yourself has no meaning. It's one thing for someone to say something to you and you try to be impenetrable, or in your mind you disagree with them. It's another thing when someone says something to you and legitimately your only experience is watching them go, really? Because really, if we're really honest, that's the only experience you've ever had in life of other people. Is I was walking down the street and this person I crossed paths and they went, and I took those sounds and I made it mean something and I said, that doesn't feel very good. That's all people have ever done is made sounds at you. You decide what it means. It's funny, like someone says something to you and you say, can't believe they said that. You know why you can't believe it? Because they didn't. They know what they said to you, but that's just from their perspective. From your perspective, all they did was go, ugh. And the fact that you've been taught a language that says when someone makes that noise, here's what it means. And here's how you must feel about it. That's just a state of conditioning. And as human beings, that's one of the funniest problems we have. Sitting there going, God, I wish these people would just make different sounds at me. I don't like the sounds they make at all. Make different sounds. If you think about that, words are sounds. And what you're asking when you negotiate is, I want you to make different sounds at my face. And until you do, I'm going to make not so nice sounds at your face. So if you want me to make nicer sounds at your face, I'm going to need you to change the sounds you're making at mine. And if you don't, I'm going to give you a bunch of spiritual sounds. Integration of the soul. Very different from trying to remove ourselves from life, trying to pull back from experiences. When you're an ego, the big goal is trying to have a greater perspective of understanding. When you integrate, you wake up out of the need to understand. You're not refusing to understand. That's the definition of ignorance. You're free of needing understanding. Understanding can come to you all at once. You're no longer looking for it. That's the definition of integration. How often do you seek an understanding? Do you let understanding come to you, or are you hunting it down? And if you're not seeking an understanding, one of the first stages of that integration process is being uncomfortable with not understanding. It's called confusion. Confusion doesn't mean you don't understand. Confusion means there's nothing to understand. And it can be very intimidating if in the past, in your school life as a child or in your family, you have a lot of uncomfortable and embarrassing experiences where you were singled out if you didn't understand. We seem to still live in a world where not understanding is socially unacceptable. And so we try to understand more than we need to know to load up on all the right answers. So if we're called on by someone, we always have the right answer. Like we're in some game show. We always have to have the right answer and be right because we're afraid to be without understanding. And yet the minute you don't have an understanding, you're actually having an experience. If you have an understanding, you're not actually having an experience. You're only having an experience of what you understand. Isn't that interesting? It's like and that's like the calamity of the spiritual ego, is having these debates or conversations, whether at events or online. Not that we've ever seen that, right? Maybe you've heard of it, but it's not an experience of spiritual transcendence. It's an experience of understanding. And when you're exchanging understanding with someone, neither person is going beyond their understanding. They're just defending their territory. And so when you're an unintegrated spiritual ego, you seek more understanding, you think you need to understand, or you defend the understanding you need by trying to correct people that seem misinformed. When you're a fully integrated soul, there's no one to correct. There's no one to correct. That doesn't even arise as an impulse. It really doesn't. Because what's more obvious is that the person who's speaking just needs to be heard. No corrections whatsoever. And so as you go through this process of integrating the soul and really just kind of stepping out of that old paradigm of dissolving the ego, you're going to go through 4 interesting stages that don't happen in a particular order. But a fully integrated soul is free of 4 things. And these are the 4 things that we free ourselves of by experiencing it over and over again. So how you're going to get through this path is by facing what I'm about to describe to you. 4 stages in no particular order, and they can be in any order. Righteousness, victimhood, entitlement, neediness. That's the 4-stage journey from the endless dissolving of ego and always feeling like you're this close to enlightenment and into fully integrating the soul as an embodied expression of spirit in action. And if you know that that's what you're moving through, you can go through it much quicker than normal. Otherwise, you're just going to go from, oh, I once was righteous, but now I'm a victim. And it's just from one extreme to the other. I was entitled, now I'm just needy. Needed a break from the neediness, I found entitlement. We get stuck in these 4 quadrants. Righteousness, victimhood, neediness, entitlement. And yet that's what we're moving through to fully embody that which we already are. A seed can know that it is already the fragrance of the flower, but it has to go through the blossoming process in order to have that be realized. So the destiny can be fully anchored in the garden of life. So you may know yourself as that fill-in-the-blank answer, but you still got to go through the process of showing your work and coming into the world as that which you already are. And we do that by putting aside the idea that liberation, self-realization, enlightenment, put that aside. That is only going to come to you on its own when you're fully embodied and integrated. It's so interesting to even think of it linguistically. So many of us have been in the experience of endless stages of disintegrating ego, wondering when does it shift? It shifts when you start to become integrated. But think of that word, disintegration. Disintegration is a word that means evaporation, and it also is a word that refers to a lack of integration. So you've been constantly vanishing out of your old paradigm while embodying a lack of integrated truth and reality. And that's when we become very spiritually aware beings with very questionable social skills. We know how to meditate for long periods of time. Sometimes we forget to be nice. And whether we're playing out the righteous ego, the victimized ego, the entitled ego, or the needy ego, just by me saying the word integration or integrated, something in you responds energetically. It's like something in you lights up and steps forward. Do you feel that? You go, oh, that's what I'm really here to do. Yes, integrate. Integrate. It's a form of spiritual sobriety. Integrate. 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 That'd be awesome. Right? If I ever have an app, you ask a question and press the button, I just go, integrate. 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 Because when you're integrated, you are leading with faith. When you're dissolving but not integrated, you're in fear. And the stage of what you experience between fear and faith is known as frustration. So that's another way of describing this journey, from fear to faith through the valley of frustration. Doesn't that sound appealing? Doesn't that sound appealing? So that just tells us that the next 5 years is about absorbing the energies, being guided by the teachings from those that are guiding you into the most transcendent, heart-centered level of consciousness, to accelerate the vibration of the world in the most miraculous way, to step forward as a light bearer of awakened consciousness by moving towards life, not away from it. By letting understanding come to you instead of you try to hunt it down. By you not trying to just be the space where a higher consciousness can reside and shine through, because you are that which is shining through you. We're way beyond the stage of like, I just get out of the way and let it come through. You are what you're getting out of the way of. You are what's coming through. I got out of the way. And what came through? You. That's right. So, if you're trying to get out of the way in order for you to come through, maybe we don't need to get out of the way anymore. Because remember, the triad, signifies 3 aspects to one consciousness. There is a body. There is a soul, which is the individuated expression of source. And there is a source to all this, which is that which projects all of this into form. But all of it is one. And what my intention and purpose for being in your life is to free you of the calamity of moving from one aspect of the triangle to the other one and chasing your own tail, and to just integrate all of this as the supreme truth that you are. Because we're all on a path where we all in some way know the supreme truth. Whether we can put it in words or we've tasted it and don't even know it. It doesn't matter what you know about truth. It only matters how integrated you are. And your body and your experience is your living testimony as to how integrated you are. And someone who's energetically sensitive or who is attuned can just take a whiff and know what's going on. Just take a read of what's going on. And you can see there's the truth, there's their experience of the truth, and here's the space, the gap that needs to be resolved for them to be fully embodied and fully aware. Again, the misunderstanding is we've been trying to be so aware of ourselves, and awareness has been a spiritual term for self-judgment. As I've said before, if you're going to look within and you're not coming with a boatload of compliments, you're trespassing. Don't trespass against yourself. You want to look within? Bring flowers. Bring compliments. None of this. I'm going to look within and make sure everything's working right. Or it works fine. And for the second and third wave of ascension, there's this really extraordinary gap between people trying to be too aware of themselves and people who aren't aware of anything other than themselves. And so it's going back and forth between self-judgment and self-absorption. And becoming a fully integrated soul dissolves and collapses both those paradigms. To become a fully integrated expression of your highest wisdom and action. And once that is anchored, you start calling forth a new world. And for a lot of the first wave of ascension participants, those of you who are called to really accelerate for the well-being of this planet, you will be going through a very tremendous undertaking, which doesn't have to be as painful as the dissolving of the ego paradigm, but it will be progressive. And that's one of the reasons why I'm here to be with you, is to guide you through this 5-year process. We go from being fully integrated souls from the 5th dimension, then we go into 6th dimensional consciousness. 5th dimensional consciousness is unity consciousness, where what you are and what others are one. 6th dimensional consciousness is the dissolving of the veil between one and other. 7th dimension is where the other is I and the I is the other. And 8th dimension is where the one that I am is simply the light of all. And we go from being aware of just the governing consciousness of one body to the governing consciousness of a paradigm, to the governing consciousness of a planet, to the governing consciousness of humanity, to the governing consciousness of a galaxy, to the governing consciousness of reality itself, and that's 12th dimension. And this journey is here to take you as far as you've already gone. See, what I'm saying is not a prophecy, because a prophecy infers this is what's going to happen. I'm not giving you a prophecy. I'm telling you what already occurred. I'm just briefing you on it. And I'm helping remind you of what you forgot already happened so that you can remember while playing out what seems like it's all unfolding in present moment time. We're guaranteed success, but only with your highest participation. This will unfold miraculously. It will unfold with your participation, and it is my honor and privilege to offer you a path that does it in the most loving, miraculous, progressive, and joyful way. Because that's what you deserve. You deserve the truth, and not the truth that takes you from ego to spiritual ego, not from spiritual ego to conspiracy ego. The truth, and not the ultra super duper spiritual ego. Not that, oh, everything's an illusion, and if you fall for it, you're dumb. Oh my God, I'm eating a piece of pizza and I totally thought there was pizza. Oh my God, I'm so in my ego. Come on. Come on. You're going to have emotions. You're going to have thoughts. The purpose is not to be thought-free and emotional-free. The purpose is to ask yourself the question of integrated consciousness. And the question, because if you don't ask the right question, you're not pointing yourself in the right direction. You can think in any direction, right? Any direction you can think in, but if you're not pointing in the right direction, you're going to go off till the end of time the wrong way. Some people say, well, there's no real wrong way. Oh, but there is. There is. If you're trying to go to Hawaii and you're aiming for Indonesia, that would not be the right way. And you can get to Indonesia and swear it's Hawaii. But only to you. There is a right way. There really is. And it's the most loving way. The right way is the loving way, because it's the only thing that does justice to you and everyone around you. It's the only thing that gives everyone the space to play out what they got to work out. And it's the only thing that allows you to heal and integrate without being damaged by other people's growing pains. It's the only thing that makes all of this make any sense. If not for love, none of this would make sense. Love is what makes it all make sense. And that's why I lead with only love. Only love. Only bringing through teachings of love as love itself. Because that's what you deserve. Love is the truth. Love is what you are. And the truth is, ascension isn't about a planet awakening. It's about the integration of an awakened planet. The planet was awakened the moment it was created. The history of humanity is the journey of integration, not the journey of awakening. Because that which is embodying all these experiences is already awake. It's just not integrated. You ever heard a child say something extremely wise and have no idea the wisdom they said? Because they're wise and inherently naturally awake, they're just not integrated. That's why children can say wise things, but you're not going to give them an adult task. Well, my child says a lot of wise things. Maybe they can babysit themselves. No. They may still smell like heaven, but they're not integrated yet. So in a lot of respects, spiritual beings are like spiritual children, who are inherently wise, naturally liberated, not integrated, to say the least. That's what our journey is, to become integrated. And I will tell you, after a lifetime of experiences of self-realization and transcendence that for me began when I was 8, I will tell you, everything you think you're looking for doesn't occur in those realizations. It occurs when you're integrated. That's the true joy. Not that awakening isn't magnificent. Not that transcendence and self-realization isn't spectacular. But it's nothing like being integrated. Because self-realization can bring you an experience of reality. But it can still leave you with the feeling of, I think there's something more for me to realize if it doesn't satisfy you with the emotions you want to feel all the time. And you go from self-realization to chasing and wanting the next one. It's like being fed some delicious food that just makes you hungry 20 minutes later. The joy of integration is that integration actually cures you and frees you from the existential hunger for needing something more to realize. That's more important. It's important that we all have awakening experiences, but what's more important is that you are absolutely absolved of the hunger of wanting more spiritual experience. Does that make sense? It's a very mature way of looking at it. Because you can have an experience of, I had this wild experience. But then, from my standpoint, I tune in energetically and I say, okay, did that experience give you freedom from the need for greater experiences, or did it ramp up the hunger? That's what I look at energetically. And I can tune in 2 seconds and I know. It's like smelling a perfume. It's obvious at a certain point. And you go, many experiences, ravenous hunger. You know it like walking down the detergent aisle at a grocery store. And it's not wrong to hunger for experiences. It's just not the path of integration. And do you know what else the path of integration does for you? It heals your physical body. When you're having a healing crisis and you're exhausted or you're having all these random things, that means you're under a major energetic transformation. You're just not integrated yet. So the path of healing is trying to steer you in the direction of integration. So what will be the remedy for physical healing? energetic balance, emotional harmony, and absolving you of the hunger for needing more and more existential experiences, or freeing you and absolving you from compulsive spiritual experiences, becoming integrated. And where does integration begin? With your hand on your heart. Your attention not looking through the veil of illusion, but returning to the heart of truth. And as self is turned back towards source, your consciousness returns to the kingdom of your heaven, one I love you at a time. I love you.
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 An integrated soul is love in action. An ego fears love, often by running towards it. It's the most clever way to avoid love is to run towards it. And as you run towards it with your fingers out trying to grab on it, your fingers are just pushing it away from you. Oop, can't get it yet. Greatest way to avoid something is to run towards it. And then once you run towards it and you catch up to it and you grab it, you can't believe, oh my God, you can't believe you got it. You just drop it and run away. Because you've only been trained to chase it. You haven't been trained to receive it. So an ego avoids love by chasing it, and then when it gets it, it runs like hell. A spiritual ego believes it's immune from needing love by outsmarting itself, or instead reaching for the surrogate. I don't need love, I need understanding. That's the surrogate. But you want to know what an ego or a spiritual ego cannot do successfully? It can't even impersonate it. It can't love. A spiritual ego would never be caught dead loving itself. I don't understand the purpose. Who's the one saying the I and who's the you? And sounds like there's two characters and there's only one, and this just is an outrage. This is an outrage. I think you're trying to fool me. This is ridiculous. I feel my vibration lowering as I do this. This is an outrage right here. Who is the I and who is the you? I just don't get this. Spiritual ego can't even get close to impersonating love. It tries. Even when it tries, I love you, it can't pretend. Spiritual ego can repeat all the cool phrases and all the one and two one-liners in existence. Cannot impersonate love. That's a litmus test. I remember once someone came to me. They said, I am here to awaken my consciousness. That's awesome. How often do you love yourself? What do you mean by that? See? Sniff it out immediately. An integrated soul is so one with the vibration of love. An integrated soul doesn't even have the choice to love. That's why an integrated soul is so powerful. The reason you feel the power of one who is transmitting from a space of love is because you're feeling the energy of someone who doesn't have a choice anymore. Because once you've discovered love as a choice, which is the beginning of integration, you found the highest vibration. What other options would you need to peruse? You found the highest vibration, love. Let me see what other options there are. Why? You found the highest. Why are you still looking through the catalog? Why? A being who is becoming integrated becomes aware of the most loving choice more often than not. One who is fully integrated no longer has choices. Only love chooses. And the most powerful energy you'll feel is from a being who doesn't have a choice anymore. Just love. And the person who has choices go, I can't believe you're so loving. The reason they're captivated, I can't believe you're so loving. They think it's a choice. I'm not making the choice to love you. I've already made the choice. Choices are done. There isn't even a remote idea that there would be an option other than love. And there isn't even an inference that there's anything else to love but love itself. It's love being one with itself. In the beginning, love is a choice, and then choices disappear. And when choices disappear and it is simply love working through the form, that's when you're integrated. So don't hold against you all the times you forget to love. Just revel and celebrate how often you remember and return to it. Choose love, choose love, choose love until there's nothing left to choose. That's the path of integration. And there's a lot more to it, but this is the taste. This is the beginning. And whether we take this journey together in person, at our immersions, our retreats, or online through the Angel Academy 4, this transmission of energy and this clarity, which is always upgrading and changing, is to take you through this process of integration as quickly, miraculously, and loving as possible. Because this is your time to shine. The field's open. And if you can be guided in the clearest way, this will all come full circle rather quickly. And once it does, then we go to the next stage and the next stage with no end to how brightly you can shine. Way beyond the paradigms and dimensions of looking for spirituality to solve your problems. Way beyond the frontier of using spirituality to get what you think what you want, but using the spiritual journey as a way of returning to the source of your origin, bringing it forward into the body, and calling forward a world that reflects your conscious back to you for the well-being of all. And then when that happens, your energy expands beyond manifesting a world to reflect back your vibration, and then you start manifesting a galaxy to reflect back your vibration, and a universe to reflect back your vibration, until there isn't anything in any dimension that is other than the light of your eternal nature. This is where it gets fun. This is where it gets easier. This is where it gets miraculous. And this is where it becomes what we've all been waiting for. The first coming of truth, or what people call messiahhood, was that light awakening in one individual. Maybe you've heard of him. And then there was the prophecy that there will be a second. And boy, there is a second coming. The first Messiah that came embodied I am. The second coming is that I am awakening in all. So who is the second coming but you? You are the second coming as I am. And this is where we emerge. And as I've said before, to anchor in the grace of unity consciousness, to discover the second coming as we. How else do you discover we but by turning the me upside down? This is where our journey begins, together as one. And as I always say, The best is yet to come. And as the universe always says to me that I say to you, further instructions will follow.